Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. I'm also the founder and head instructor of Connors Martial Arts. We teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts. Come on down, give us a call, send me a text, DM me, come in, and we will make your life better. You'll be fitter. You'll have a smaller waist. You'll have more energy, clearer skin, more fulfilling romantic relationships. Men will envy you, or the appropriate sex will envy and or desire you.
You'll stop being a piece of crap.
Right.
And you'll be an awesome human being.
Right.
You'll change it, turn it all around.
And I'm here.
Turn it around.
I'm here with author of Stop Eating Like a Disgusting Pig, New York Times bestseller, and the baddest, get ready for the beep button, Dimitri, the baddest mother effer in podcasting, Dan Robin.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Can we say baddest mother effer? Dimitri goes through and sanitizes.
Can't hear you, Dimitri, right?
Yeah, he sanitizes these things.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
He didn't answer.
Yeah, you are the baddest mother effer in podcasting.
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
Well, Nate Diaz and Gamebred Masvidal, they're fighting for the baddest mother effer title. Is that hilarious? That belt?
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you the title of the baddest mother effer in podcasting.
I'm also not interested in them. I'm interested in that fight. I don't need them to hype it up. I wanted to see those two fight. I don't need this sort of nonsense.
Yeah, it's kind of contrived, clever, but it should be a good fight. How do you feel, man?
Amazing.
You look fantastic.
Do I?
Yeah. You look fit, energized. You look great.
You know what it turns out?
Yeah.
So now I'm just maintaining 10 pounds below where I always was.
Yeah.
For decades, And it's that calendar.
That goddamn calendar.
I can't keep talking about the calendar. And I won't.
We should just end the podcast right here. Just say, get a goddamn calendar.
In fact,
get out of here.
In fact, that's all we should change the name of the podcast, maybe. Calendar.
I've been working my calendar as well, Dan.
I didn't even know you had a calendar still.
Yeah.
What do you mark off?
Lately,
food.
Lately, I've been doing not drinking. If I'm not drinking, I give myself a little number on the calendar, and I'm so glad I'm doing it because I can turn around and there's 3 days I put together of drinking that I didn't even realize because I just had one or two drinks,
Yeah.
And it's not good.
What I realized too is that I understand different people have different metabolisms, but I'm looking back at my calendar and I'm like, it's very spotty. Like my clean eating is like spotty. Like 2 days of the week I went to Nashville, by the way.
Yeah.
2 days that week was clean eating, 3 days the next week, but I'm still down. You know what I mean? Like it turns out I don't need to string them all together. Right. It's sort of like...
You're way ahead of where you would be without the calendar.
Yeah.
Right.
And then as soon as you get back from a trip like to Nashville, you're like, oh man, I got to get some X's. And so I'm starting to put some up. And like I said, even if I don't get a total day of clean eating, it's closer. You know what I mean? Like today's
better.
Already not clean, but it's better than it would have been. There's no cookies and cake and all this kind of crap. Oh, so I was going to say about metabolism, what I've learned from me is some people, they say, like one bad day and it undoes a week of good.
Okay.
And I found that with me is like one good day can kind of undo a week of bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm lucky in that way. Like I can like it.
Know what I think it is, Dan? I've experienced a little bit of what you're saying. I think if you get enough of a history behind you of eating healthy, then when you do go off, you do rebound very quickly.
Yeah, that's what that's what's happening.
I think so. But if you don't have that baseline behind you, a history of relatively clean eating, it doesn't work that well, right?
And history doesn't have to be that long, just to be clear.
Doesn't, yeah.
Like 3 weeks of history.
Yep. Yeah, a month
and
or
then that's what's happening. Like I have a new 10-pound lighter set point, and I'm almost no matter what I do, I'm staying at it. I'm staying near it.
How do you feel? Good. Are you happy about it?
Nah, I feel the same. I do. Yeah. I feel the same. I don't know. I don't like walk with
Isn't
like a
that
spring
funny?
in my step.
That's human nature where you have that some period of time, some moment you feel really good about the change, right?
Yeah.
And then you just acclimate it, and then it's like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
So what are you weighing now? You said you're 10 pounds
178.
178. That's pretty good. But so when you finally get down to that 178, you kind of give yourself a little pat in the back. You get a little pep in your step. You feel pretty good about yourself. But then it normalizes pretty quickly. And then
so the other thing that happens to me, and so all right, so can we go on to a deeper point? And it's related to, so hopefully today we get to some Facebook questions.
Okay.
So people from the gym submitted questions for us to answer.
We'll get there. Maybe not this episode, but we're going to do 100 episodes. We're only on 54, so we got time. But yeah,
we're going to get there. And this applies to a lot. I think this is a lot. And we touched on it last time. And it's I think it's actually, there's something there, something deep there. And it's the nature of goals, right? Like
okay.
I think I've never heard anyone else say this, which is there's a downside to goals. And last time we just kind of stumbled on it. Like, I was saying it, I was like, it's ill thought out, and it was. And it's not black and white. Goals are not black and white. Goals are good to have, and they've been life-changing for you, for example. You have certain goals, and there's many, many examples. People that have goals, and it works really well. And I just sort of started noticing that there was a downside. Like when I said, I want to get to 180 pounds, I would touch it like someone cutting weight for a fight. Like I'd be like, got it, 180, ding. And like 2 hours later, I'd be at 185. And I was so my first thought was there's something maybe not great about goals. And now I'm thinking more about it. And it's that it ties into something we talk about all the time on this podcast, which is in a way, you want a goal to motivate you, but you want it to motivate you so that you change things in your life to get there. And then ideally, you don't even care if you get to the goal anymore. Because what I found, so getting back to originally what you asked, I always found whenever I set a goal, I'd get there and then I'd be like, well, now I want another goal. That was a crap goal. So if I said, so even now I'm down at 178 and I'm like, well, I could definitely be fit. Now I'm like, I should probably be 5 pounds lighter, something like that. And jiu-jitsu is a great example where I think it's rampant, where everyone wants one goal, like a belt, and you get there and then you think, well, I want another goal. I always said for me in jiu-jitsu, I came in and I said, I just want to be able to get the better of an untrained person, like in a street fight, say. But then you get there in, a few months or whatever, and then you think, well, that's a garbage goal. I want to get to a, blue belt level. You get to blue belt and you're like, well, blue belt, that's a ridiculous goal. I want to get, and like, so you get to goals and then you're not satisfied, and it leaves you're never satisfied, which is maybe good in a way. But I'm pointing out like the weakness of goals where you're like, I'm missing, because you always feel like I'm missing the goal. And so there's nuance to it, which I've been thinking about, which is you should have a goal if that helps motivate you to make these changes. But the main thing is making the changes.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's sort of like, I'm going to start eating healthier. And if this goal helps, it helps. But mostly, I just need to start eating healthier.
Yes.
Or like, and for jiu-jitsu, people are like, I want my black belt. But really, what you want is to just keep going into jiu-jitsu as much as you can and learn as much as you can. And if that motivates you to think you're going to get a black belt, fine. But really, don't think too much about that black belt, right? Don't think too much about the goal. The goal sort of should be a background thing, and you really need to change your life, right? Like, I want to lose weight is sort of, or like, I want to get to this weight is like a garbage goal. It's sort of like, you don't want to lose weight and get to this weight. You want to change how you're exercising and eating, right? Like, that's what you want.
Dan, yeah, I agree with you completely. I had a similar thought. I think it's probably very much the same idea. And instead of goal, I was framing the idea in the context of competition. So it seems you can look at the human condition and say we're constantly competing. We're competing for mates. We're competing for friends. We're competing for resources. We're competing to get our kids in the best schools. It's ruthless competition constantly in every area of our lives. And wow, maybe that's not a great thing, or what? Or you see people who shrink away from competition, and they may, it's from different traps. You might have the ego trap. So I'm not going to compete because I'm afraid I'm going to lose esteem. Or I heard another one, I think it's called the virtue trap, where you say that you're above competition. You're more noble than these people who are fighting for scraps. But the real idea is you're afraid to lose. You can't take the pressure of competition, so you want out.
Right.
So
I have just a quick example that used to make me laugh. I remember being in a room with a bunch of people in college, and they were talking about fighting.
Yeah.
And this was even before MMA, right?
Okay.
It was and there was sort of a bunch of guys, and there was sort of this fighting, it was sort of this looking down on it,
right.
I'm
so above that.
Smart. I'm above it. I'm
Yeah.
smarter. I'm not going to sit there throwing punches. And it was all these guys yeah, we're above that. And I look back and I'm like, well, you're a bunch of, everyone was scared. You're looking back, it was you're all saying you're above it, but it was because you're scared to fight.
You're afraid of the competition.
You're afraid of losing, and you're
Yeah.
afraid of getting hurt. And you're not good at it. You don't know what you're doing. You're a young guy trying to act like you're tough, and it was framed as this,
this noble
you're describing,
position,
noble position. I'm not an animal.
Yeah.
Am I some sort of baboon throwing punches? And it's
and it's attractive because there is a logic to it, of course.
yeah. There's some truth to it.
But what's the real motivation behind it? And so I think this idea came from Dr. Doug Lisle from Beat Your Genes. I think he called it the virtue trap, where you're avoiding competition through this mental gymnastics, this psychological
I shouldn't do
game.
it for some reason.
Yeah, because you're above it. Yeah. And I get it, because we were just competing, and it's hard competing because you're going to lose at least as much as you win, or more often than you win. So competition is hard.
More often, for
Yeah,
sure, right?
it's
Even
just
the best
ruthless.
in the world probably lose.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not more matches, but they lose more tournaments than they win. There's no one that's out there winning most of their tournaments.
Well, the simple math of it is, if there's 10 competitors, you should expect to win 10% of the time, right? So you're losing 90% of the time. So, and in life, I don't know how you frame it, but we're competing all the time, and we're winning and losing all the time. And there's a dissatisfaction or frustration in losing. So I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking, well, the answer isn't to shrink away from competition. The virtue trap or the ego trap. That's obviously, you can just feel that in my bones. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why I started competing again, was I knew I was in this ego trap, and I knew it was soul stultifying. It was just killing me. And I'm like, I can't live in the ego trap. I got to get the hell out of this thing. So that's not the answer. But then
just sorry not to interrupt, but just to emphasize, that's very hard, right? You were in
hard. Yeah.
It's not like you spent a year not competing. You spent a decade, right? And you spent...
Dan, I didn't compete for 18 and a half years. But it wasn't all an ego trap.
Right.
But I would say, probably a decade of ego trap.
My point is that it's hard.
It's very hard.
You were your brain, and if your brain's clever, which it is, it'll come up with 50 reasons why you shouldn't, right? Yes. I'm sure when you first started thinking about competing, your own brain was going, but John, here's the thing, there's this downside, and you could get hurt, and you run a business, and if you get hurt, that hurts your business or whatever, the brain's clever to come up with the reasons to not do things that you don't want to do.
Could come up with unlimited reasons, probably, Dan. Yeah, because you don't want to, it doesn't want to do it. So shrinking away from competition isn't the answer, but ruthlessly competing, if you're like one of these psychopathic competitors, that doesn't seem like the answer either. You know what I mean? So what I came up with is, I think competition, to use an awkward metaphor, is like the spark plug of your car. You know what I mean? It's necessary, but it's only necessary to sort of stimulate things and get things going. You know what I mean? The goal gets you changing your life, changing the process, changing how you live. And when you change how you live, you change who you are. That's the real meat of it. You know what I mean? The goal is just a spark plug to get the whole thing going. If we didn't have it, it wouldn't get done. If I wasn't competing, I wouldn't eat as healthy. I wouldn't take care of myself as well. It would be too hard just to do it in a vacuum of no competition, right? Because we're talking about going into discomfort, and it's so hard to go into discomfort. You need some reason, you need some stimulus to do it. And I think goals and competition do that. And then the beauty of that is if I can look at competition as, a spark plug, as what's the other catalyst, maybe, Dan, then I can put it in its proper place so that when I don't get the result that I want immediately, I don't get too bent out of shape about it because I realize it's only part of the process.
Right. And that's where I think a lot of people make the mistake, and I would have, and you would have too, or it's, you're like, if you're focused so much on the goal, like you're like, and you lose sight of that I changed so many things for the better to get there. It becomes like, okay, didn't win this tournament, and you're like, it's all a waste.
Right.
And it's all, and you get depressed or whatever, and it's like, that's where you go wrong.
Yes.
People go wrong. Like, it's like, no, you changed so many things that you wanted to change.
Right.
To head for that goal.
Right.
That the goal itself almost becomes not important.
It's not. Right? Yeah. It's somehow pushing and establishing real results. Like you're fitter, you're healthier, like all these different things. You've improved your nervous system, your psychology. You know what I mean? All these things. Like when I did the Boston Open, I came up with I came upon a new method to deal with anxiety. And I went through that whole program and process. And I believe it's changed my nervous system so that I can confront challenges even better than I had before. But if I didn't have the contest, I wouldn't be able to do that. And even if I lost at that tournament, I still would have had the benefit of all the gains that I had. Yeah.
And again, taking it away from jiu-jitsu or even fitness, even if something seems like a pure loss, you're like, I'm going to buckle down and write a book. I'm just winging it here. But like, and then the book doesn't get published.
Right.
There's one mindset that's like, well, the whole thing, I wasted
my time
because my goal was to get a book published.
And I'm a loser. I couldn't get it done.
Yeah. And that's all wrong.
All wrong.
And, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. That's where goals can get poisonous, where you're like, the whole thing is this goal.
But if you have a good process of, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write every day for an hour, at the end of a year, your life's going to be better.
Right.
Because you're going to be a clearer thinker. You'll probably be a better writer. So whether the book gets done or not, you're in a better place.
So that's what I like. The goal is the spark plug, but it's not. I think people view goals wrong, I guess. They view it as, Dan, I need to do this, and then it's a failure if I didn't do it.
Did you ever see that documentary about the famous Harvard-Yale game where Harvard was losing by like 16 points or something with 2 minutes left in the game, and then they somehow tied the game, and the paper said Harvard beats Yale, 22-22, whatever the hell the score was. So this was, I think, in the late 60s. This happened, and so there's a documentary about it, and they went back and they showed all the key plays, like these real fluky, miraculous plays at the end of the game. And what was interesting and a little disturbing about it is some of the Harvard heroes of the game went on and they had impressive lives, successful lives, which is no surprise anyways because they're smart, capable guys anyways. But there was a couple Yale players. I don't know if it's just because of the movie, but it seemed like that game just tanked their lives. Like they were like miserable alcoholics after it. Which is awful. And so I don't know how real it is, how accurate. It's a very interesting movie. Yeah, they're making a film.
The idea is still there.
The idea that a bad result in a competition would send you down the wrong path and ruin your life is just a shame. It's just awful. What a tragedy that is. And unnecessary because it's just how you frame it, right?
Right. And you see it at all levels. You see it at the top levels of jiu-jitsu or MMA that we've seen very famous athletes that lose. And, they were like, my goal, like Ronda Rousey, right? It was like, my goal is to be the best ever and never, ever lose. And she lost twice and was like lost. And she said she was thinking about killing herself and all this sort of stuff.
I think the very first loss just put her in a tailspin, right?
Yeah. And she didn't think she could lose. And it's like, again, what does the goal mean? That you have that goal and it should be your spark plug. And if it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that was actually the end. Her headed toward that goal created a great life for herself. You know what I mean?
Great life, yeah.
Amazing accomplishments, an amazing life. And that's the thing to keep an
I think
eye
she
on.
recovered. I think I saw an interview with her recently, and she's a professional wrestler or something, and she seems happy and successful and all that. But she did go through some dark periods after that loss, I think.
Right.
And it's probably how she defined herself as, I never lose. This is who I am. Here's my worldview. And then she lost it. She had to create another worldview, and it was devastating. Interestingly enough, when McGregor lost his first loss, or it wasn't technically his first loss, but his real big first loss on the big stage to Nate Diaz, he seemed to recover pretty quickly.
Yeah, he seemed all right. I think he's had more trouble with winning. But
I think he might have defined success as fame and fortune, not necessarily winning all the time. And then, so even if you lose to Nate Diaz, you still get the money rolling.
I just saw that
the fame.
there's a Netflix special, Notorious, about Conor McGregor.
Is it worth watching?
It's worth-ish watching. It's
okay.
Not, but for me, it's like I remembered how charismatic he was and how my view of him has diminished since
absolutely
since the Mayweather. Like he was he was great. He was just a great character.
When he first came up, he was sensational in the real sense of the word. Yeah. You would get goosebumps watching him and hearing what he had to say.
And he'd nail the press conferences. He'd nail everything, and then he'd
win. He'd win in spectacular fashion. He was sensational. It was unbelievable.
And I always had this sense of...
but it was too perfect. You couldn't sustain that, Dan, right?
But there was a sense of when he was being obnoxious or, abrasive, it was part of his act. And then I think sometime after the Mayweather fight, it stopped. It's like, I didn't feel like it was an act anymore. What do I know, first of all? I don't know Conor McGregor. But everything points in that direction. He's estranged from old friends. He's estranged from his coach. He's estranged, you know what I mean? Like there's things in the news. So it's that same feeling of, I think the success actually got to him. He said a funny thing in the documentary where he said, it sounded like he was on the right track, but then he was like, people say, people aim for fame and fortune, but that's not what's important in life. People like, who cares about fame? It's a fortune. I was like, but he didn't actually say it as
Dalai Lama.
He didn't really say it as a joke. He said it like, it was like, I'm paraphrasing it. And he was like, fame, who cares about fame? But I can buy these cars now, and it was like, well, you're halfway there, Conor, but.
That's really funny.
He's sort of right in a way that money's great, but I don't know. Maybe he'll the other thing is he got all this fame at 28. So by 38, he could easily be pulled out. You can get your wisdom by, he has time to get his wisdom and pull out of it,
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah. I mean, something about $100 million helps you be fine.
That buffers a lot of life.
Yeah, a lot
skills.
of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of problems.
That's really funny. Oh, so the whole point we got away from a little bit is about goals and competition and understanding their proper role, I think, is key. Definitely.
I haven't heard anyone talk about that, like the nuance of goals and getting there,
I've never heard anybody talk about it. I think we're trailblazing geniuses on this podcast.
And so now all the listeners, you're ahead of the game.
You heard it from the baddest mother effer in podcasting. No, Dan, you're absolutely right. And I think I've told you my personal story of that. I had a goal for much of my young life to get into Harvard, and I framed it exactly like that. I want to get into Harvard, which was a pretty ambitious goal from where I started. And as soon as I accomplished that goal, I got that letter in the mail. All the motivation just drained out of my body. And then I didn't understand that I needed to create a new goal. And then also, Dan, I think it points to you got to create goals that are going to be healthy for you, that win, lose, or draw, you're going to be better for pursuing it, which is key, right?
Right. You don't want some goal that you make yourself worse in pursuing it. Like, I want this business success, so I'm going to screw everyone over on the way there.
Right.
Or, something.
I want to win the Coney Island hot dog eating contest. Like, that's probably a no-win either way, right? It can't be good. The amount of hot dogs these guys are stuffing in themselves now.
I'm not a nutritionist, but I would guess 85 hot dogs in 20 minutes.
Is that how many they eat?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's vile. Somebody's
like
going to
minutes,
die, right? Isn't somebody going to just keel over and die at some point?
It seems impossible to me.
Like their colon's going to rupture.
I don't even understand how it works. Like how they
must be like anacondas, just stuffing the stuff into the system.
And then they don't throw up, right? And they give post-game interviews, and they're just talking. I don't know how you can have that. What's the weight of 80 hot dogs?
Let's think about it, because they're wetting them as well.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
They have to eat they're wetting buns, right?
Yeah,
like
it's got to be 40 pounds, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, 40 pounds. Got to be half a pound each. If you're wetting, you get a hot dog. The hot dog. Let's think about it. It's probably less than a quarter of a pound, a hot dog, right? But you get the bun, and then you're wetting it. So maybe it's 30 pounds.
Let's say 25.
Putting 25 pounds of hot dog stuff in water.
What's the mechanics of... never mind. But like, how do you shed the 25 pounds in the next day? Like, do you know what I mean? If you're not throwing up.
I think you got to...
25
you got to block
pounds.
out some time for the next 3 days. Yeah.
25 pounds. Anyway.
Anyways.
So set healthy goals, and then, but that's the main thing.
Set goals that are going to improve your lot in life, going to improve your life, whether you actually attain it or not.
And I think you have to keep in the back of your mind that it is the process that's important.
Yes.
And somewhere, like the goal's there driving you, but it's not really the goal. It's what you're doing to get to the goal.
I agree. Otherwise, you have some Sherpa dragging you up to the peak of Mount Everest. What does that mean? You know what I mean? That's meaningless, right? Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's a really good way to look at things.
So I don't know if this is a time to go into it, but you just competed again.
Just competed in New York in the Nogi Pan Am Championships.
Which is you had done this last year.
This was the very first tournament I did last year, Dan, after 18 and a half years of being away from competition. And I had one match last year against a really good competitor. And I think I surprised him with a takedown, and then I passed his guard, so I won 5-0. And I was happy with that performance with 18 and a half years off. So I got the gold medal last year. This year, I had 2 matches. And so I went into this tournament talking about goals. I had a different goal, Dan. I think I probably told you about it.
Yeah, you said on the podcast.
What did I say?
It was less about winning, which is sort of what we've been saying, and more about seeing mentally if you could relax more during the
I wanted to be loose. I felt like, so I competed at the Pan Ams, I competed at the Nogi Worlds, the Boston Open, and and then the Masters World Championship. So I did 4 tournaments in the last year, but I felt I had not had my best performance yet. I thought I was a little too tight. You know what I mean? Like only one match did somebody score any points on me, so you could say, wow, that's terrific. Nobody's scoring on you, but I was just too tight. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute. How many tournaments did you do?
I did the Pan Ams last year. Then I did the Nogi Worlds in December. And then I did the Boston Open. And then I did the Masters Worlds in Vegas. So I did 4 tournaments.
So I know you don't want to, but like you did 4 tournaments and one person scored points on you?
Yes. Yeah. But I injured myself. Okay. I tore my calf.
Okay. Otherwise, none of them would have.
Who knows?
Possibly.
Yeah. I wasn't at my best. Not to make excuses. I hate when people do that.
No, you never make excuses.
I love when people post on Facebook after some competition. They go, everyone who knows me realizes I'm never one to make excuses.
And then
it's the litany of excuses. So I think those are the funniest posts.
Well, even again in the UFC, you see that a lot where they're like, "Hey, look, he was the better man tonight. All credit to him." That said, like, and then it's like I'm not making any excuses. He won fair and square. I did have a torn ACL, and I couldn't practice because I thought I was going to fight this other guy, and
very funny. Oh, so my goal was to be loose. I just wanted to focus on a relaxed performance. And I think I accomplished that goal.
Did you feel relaxed?
I felt much more relaxed. So the first match, I won 12-0. So I got the guy's back 3 different times. That's the only points that I scored. But I felt that I could, I was present in the moment. So I looked up, I could see my name on the scoreboard. I could see 12-0. I could see, there's a minute 35 left. And then he got into my close guard. And I thought to myself, well, I'll just keep him here in my close guard for the last 90 seconds.
It's not 0-0.
Right.
Like that.
Right. 12-0. Yeah. It's going to be hard for them to get me here. But to emphasize that, Dan, before when I had been competing, you can get so excited. You look at the scoreboard and you can't see anything. It might as well be in Korean. I mean, it's like you look over there, you see a red and some green, and there's some letters and some numbers, and you just can't make it out.
So you can actually look at the numbers, but they mean nothing to you because
you don't even know their numbers. Like
right.
You look at, and it's not like it's small. It's like this big television, and it's very visible, but because of the excitement, you just can't make out what the hell is going on.
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Will do it. Did I tell you just this parallel story in a totally different field than jiu-jitsu? But I always told this story of a friend of mine in graduate school. I might have said this. I feel like it
you told me the story about the guy who totally choked.
Yeah.
And then he got his revenge on you. Yeah.
Right. Wait, which one is that? You get
the one where you didn't do the additional reading?
Yeah. So that was the same idea, though, right? He was giving the speech.
Yep.
He was giving a presentation in front of the class. And that's what stuck with me was that someone asked him a question, so he went ahead in the notes, and he was nervous. And then he went back and he had that adrenaline rush. And he said, he went to find his place in the current notes. And the way he described it is exactly what you said. He looked down and it was gibberish to him. Like he couldn't, and it's his own notes.
Yeah.
But he was nervous.
Yeah.
And then beads of sweat appeared and he was looking at it. And there were words that he could have said out loud, but they meant nothing to him. Like he could no longer process what they said at all. And the end of that story was, so he's giving a speech in front of the class. And then he sort of stammered and started sweating and babbled some things and then just turned and walked out of the room.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I just walked away. I was saying to him later, I'm like, a talk didn't go well. This is like an academic thing when you find yourself walking down the hall in the middle of the talk. Just what happened? Drenched with sweat, walking down a hall
poor guy.
halfway through.
So I wonder what the appropriate move would make. I know he just did that move, but I wonder if the professor ran out and grabbed him and said, just take 5 deep breaths. You're doing fine. Don't worry.
Is there a way to recover?
I think he probably could have recovered, and it probably would have been better for him if he had allowed to recover, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to say because think of the jiu-jitsu example, right? Can you gather your mind and clear your thoughts? And that's what you're saying you did, right?
I did.
You could look at the scoreboard and read it this time.
I could, yeah. And I did well. So what it was, Dan, was there were 3 competitors in my bracket. It's a master 6, so it's the geezer bracket. Only 3 of us can get our walkers and get to the edge of the mat. So the guy that I beat 12-0, he went against the other competitor who was the number 1 seed, and he beat that guy.
How do they do seeds?
By your competition experience, how many points you have for
you're still relatively low on that, right? Because
I think I'm going to move up now because of winning this thing. But that guy had more points than me, and another good guy, nice guy. He's from California, really. That's the other good thing about these competitions. All the competitors in my brackets are pretty nice people, and they're serious martial artists and very respectful.
And none of these guys
cool.
were in the world.
Yeah, the number 1 seed was. Yeah, he was at the Worlds, but he didn't. He got eliminated at some point. So the guy who I beat 12-0, he wins his second match. He beats the number 1 seed. I don't know what the score was. I think it was relatively close, but he did a good job. He won. So I had to compete against him again, and I took him down. So I got my 2 points for that. I got back control, and then I finished him this time. And what was good about it is my son was coaching me, and I was making a technical error when I was on this guy's back. I don't want to go into too much detail, Dan, because it may be hard for people to understand, but I had my right hook in, and I was on my right side on his back, and my feet were crossed, but I needed to use my left knee to control his hip so he couldn't roll up to turtle position. And I wasn't doing that properly. And my son Rory was a good coach, and he's so technical. He yelled that out to me. He's like, "You got to use your knee over his hip, cover his hip." And I was aware enough and present enough that I could hear him and take in that information. And then shortly after that, I got the rear naked choke finish. So
that's another good example of being relaxed and present, because reading the score seems like just reflection of whether or not you're calm. But there's an example where it actually helped you.
Definitely helped me.
If you're really tense and really uptight, then maybe you're barely hearing what's being said to you.
Yeah, definitely. So I was happy with the performance. Of course I could do better, but all in all, I'm making good progress. And, like I said, I was relaxed. You know what the funny thing about anxiety is, Dan? I don't think you experience I don't want to speak for you, but you seem like you've not had serious issues with anxiety in your life, maybe. But I feel like I have way less anxiety than I used to even a year ago when I started competing a year ago. But your body acclimates, or your mind acclimates. It's just like when you get the goal. It's you appreciate it for a moment, then it's the new normal. So it's like no big deal. So now I'm like, yeah, I was pretty relaxed, but no big deal. And you forget about how tormented you were before you changed, before you made all this progress. You know what I mean?
But that's important too, right?
Yeah.
Because say you didn't do well in these tournaments, you might, again, same point, if you came at it in the wrong way, you'd feel like I wasted a year. I wasted a year. I came in third. I came in, I lost all my matches. And you would have missed this change in yourself, right? You would have missed that
I could have, maybe.
System.
Yeah.
If you don't notice what the real goal is, is in that process.
And if I would take an objective look, this would probably be a good thing to do, Dan. So I did the same tournament last year in New York, in the Nat Holman Gymnasium, City College in New York. So that tournament, I remember the day before we were having breakfast and we're sitting around, and I had to compete the next day, and people were talking, and all of a sudden I had a lot of anxiety, and I was really irritated at the same time. I don't know why I was so irritated, but I was in a state that I'm like, I got to go home and meditate or something. As soon as you're done, I was like, I got to get to my room. I went back to my room, and I think I meditated. Maybe I did some Wim Hofing. Then I was also doing cold showers. So I was basically doing 2 5-minute ice cold showers a day and 2 20-minute Wim Hof sessions a day, probably among other things.
That's a lot.
To keep my anxiety in check. And then this year, I don't think I took a cold shower. Yeah, it didn't even occur to me. Like, I think I did my Wim Hofing, but that's just a matter of daily practice anyways. So, so then objectively, I was significantly less anxious this year than last year. So I've made great progress in a year. So,
and don't you think, so especially for the people that are listening, a lot of them, or all of them, most of them are jiu-jitsu practitioners.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. Yep.
Yeah, right. Well, the point applies to jiu-jitsu as well as non-jiu-jitsu, obviously, but there's an overemphasis a lot of times on some sort of goal. Generally the next belt, or generally beating someone.
Right. The result.
Yeah. Or the result of a roll.
Yeah.
Or I got tapped by this person. Was unable to tap that person. Why don't I have this belt yet? Do I deserve this belt? And none of this is really important in jiu-jitsu. Is that fair to say? Right?
I think so.
It's not important.
It's a distraction. Yeah.
Right.
It can be counterproductive for sure.
And just think of in your life, like you have however many years on the planet, and like the belt color is just not important. Or like, did you get choked out, or did you choke the other person out? It's not important. But are you, a lot of the other things involved in jiu-jitsu might be important, with your self-confidence, or your
I totally agree,
way you view yourself, or your fitness, or, these things are important.
Social,
totally there's a lot of things.
Your self-knowledge, what you know about yourself, how honest you are with yourself. Like when you're in these ego trap, virtue trap, whatever trap you're in, you're deluding yourself, which is not good. So yeah, the jiu-jitsu itself isn't important. It's kind of silly. We're grown men trying to strangle each other. You know what I mean? It's kind of silly, really, right? I guess then people, well, it's self-defense, blah, blah, blah. whatever. I mean, what are the odds that you and I, Dan, are going to get attacked? Well, you get attacked a lot, but I mean, the real benefit, the real things are these personal things, the personal growth, improving your nervous system, self-knowledge, challenging yourself, growing. You know, I think I'm a better jiu-jitsu student today because of the last year. So when I go into the academy, I think I'm a better training partner and I'm a better student and probably a better teacher as well. But I was always a good teacher and trying to make myself a better teacher. But I think I've become a better student because I'm not attached to the outcome that day so much. You know, I'm just trying to expand and I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to understand jiu-jitsu more. And I'm also trying to be a better person on the mat, a better training partner. All those more noble themes are more important, and I'm trying to embrace them every day, and that's not easy.
We said before, you have to keep reminding yourself. We said that before. You can't mention this once and go, "That's a good idea," and like you'll forget. It's just the nature.
Yeah, it's not human nature. So yeah, I gotta tell myself every time I go on the mat, I got to be grateful that I'm here and grateful for these people that are here that are helping me, and I'm going to help them. And you know, I'm not gonna do these flow roll thing where I'm just falling over, but I'm going to not shrink from a challenging session. You know, I'm going to try to put myself out there.
And for the non-jiu-jitsu people out there, same thing applies, right? It can just, whatever you want to name, a workout, right? Like it's like, I want to run a 5K in 25 minutes, like, and then you run the 5K and it's 26 minutes. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't a waste. Like
not at all. Yeah.
You got in shape. You know what I mean? Like in aiming for that goal,
I think
you
got
in shape.
Yeah.
And so what? You didn't quite get the goal
and you've improved your conscientiousness, which, the more conscientious you are, the more success in life you're going to have.
Right. And we said this, I use that writing a book example to try to take it as far from jiu-jitsu as I could think of on the spot, which has nothing to do with getting in shape or anything like that. And it seems like I wanted to publish a book and I didn't is a pure loss, but it's not, right? It's not like
not at all.
You have a certain amount of years on the planet and you're trying to, what do you want to spend them doing? And you did what you wanted to do,
I was listening to Jordan Peterson on a podcast. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
And he was saying that when we challenge ourselves, when we go into this discomfort in pursuit of some goal, if you want to call it that, and you embrace the proper process, you somehow start triggering epigenetics and you change yourself. You actually are transformed by the process. So we're not transformed by the result, win or lose. We're transformed by the process, which involves discomfort and challenge, going to where we're not usually going, getting out of our comfort zone. And I feel that in my experience this year that I'm a different person, than I was. So, I mean, that's wonderful.
And I think it's big in jiu-jitsu just in that. And it looks like we're not going to get to them, but a lot of like when you ask on Facebook or on social media, like what are questions that people want you or us to answer, a lot of them are some version of jiu-jitsu's making me unhappy, right? And I experienced it a lot too, right? Do you know what I mean? Like jiu-jitsu's making me unhappy. That's very common. It's incredibly common with me. Mm-hmm. And why? You know what I mean? And I think we're tapping into it, right? Like you have some goal that you're like, why aren't I here? Like whether it's a belt or an ability level or why or a result that you someone's tapping you out that you used to be better than. Like, why aren't I where I want to be? And, and it's sort of, I think the answer to those questions is a mindset change of, I'm bettering myself doing this, and that's my goal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I think that's part of it,
and I'm getting better. And that's what I want to do.
And what occurs to me, Dan, when I'm hearing you explain all of this, and it occurred to me when you first started the podcast, was that dissatisfaction is sort of the human condition, So as soon as we follow our process and as soon as we reach the top of that mountain, now we're dissatisfied. We want the next mountain. So we can't expect to live a life without any dissatisfaction. It's always going to visit us, but that's a good thing. That stimulates us to go on the path to the next thing.
Well, I really had that perfect example with jiu-jitsu where I really clearly remember saying, because I'd done this karate, and I said, I just want to actually be able to beat tough guys. Like I want to, and then, but you know, everyone out there knows that you get there pretty fast in jiu-jitsu. And then I was like, what kind of crap goal was that? And like, so then I was like, I want to get to this level. And then whatever level I got to, I felt like, what kind of goal is that? Like, that's not where I want to be. Like, and so again, if I just kept focusing on the goal, I'd always, even when you reach it, you're like, well, you're not satisfied, right?
I think
it's that dissatisfaction that's just built in.
It's part of human nature. Yeah.
And then there's broader levels than that, right? Like it's sort of in life, you can get to, I've got a nice house and a nice yard and a nice job and nice kids, but what now? You know, you can feel like that, and you know, you can, even if you get there,
we did such a wonderful job. We've raised these beautiful, intelligent, wonderful, compassionate children, and they're in these great colleges and they're having a great experience, and we did our job. And now what do we do?
Right.
I guess you wait for grandkids or something.
Is that it? Yeah. Where's the next goal, right? So there's always dissatisfaction.
Definitely.
And then you see it out there with, I mean, who knows this? Maybe this is not a great example because I don't know the specifics, but you see it rampant and in the extreme with people. I was just watching this special about Anthony Bourdain, right? Where it was like he travels the globe, wealthy, meeting famous people and eating food and dating a model.
And people love him.
He committed suicide in a hotel in Paris. And it's like, or in France somewhere. And it's like, it's that same idea of like, that's what I think. Again, I don't know the specifics of the guy, but it's usually some version of losing track of what you want, like some goal you feel like you haven't attained, and then it gets out of control in your head. Like you're like, why? Maybe, you start feeling more and more down about yourself, more and more like I'm not where I should be, and you got to contain that. You got to be like,
got to manage that.
Yeah, you got to manage it.
Yeah.
It's easy to do. It's easy. Anybody. I use him as an example because no matter what your life is, you can start feeling like I'm not where I should be. Nothing is good. I didn't achieve what I should have.
I think so. And probably high achievers are more susceptible to that than others because they're so driven in the first place, and they probably have such high standards to reach any level of satisfaction that they're probably going to be easily dissatisfied more easily than somebody else.
So you were saying this part of the human condition is dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
And this is important because it can grow out of control for people, you know what I mean? Like to, you know, real unhappiness.
Yeah.
As opposed, like in jiu-jitsu, I think it's rampant, but usually more as like minor unhappiness, more as like this, like, why aren't I, you know, getting unhappy? Like I should be better, something like that. Thinking these things through, I think could be very valuable.
I totally think so, Dan. And it's about, I think what we're trying to say is, let's wrap this up, Dan, because I think we're getting close to it. And I think we actually covered some really good things. So I think.
So again, just to, like walking in, like, I think it's before we started, there was like 4 or 5 things we were like, we can go over all these things. And we went over none of them, maybe.
But that's the beauty of podcasts and beauty of conversation. And I think it's the dialectic, which my understanding of the ancient Greek concept of dialectic is you get 2 open minds, sit together, exchange ideas, and they come up with a new idea. So it's not one person convincing another person this is truth. You come to a greater shared truth.
And that is also my understanding of the ancient Greek concept of dialectic. So we're right. We're connecting on that. I'm not sure if everyone out there agrees. There's probably a lot of listeners that are like, that is not at all my concept of the ancient Greek concept of dialectic. But bear with us, listeners, because that's our concept. So
that's it. Oh my gosh. I think I got to break into my Boston accent to like balance this off now. I got a little too snooty, right?
Very good.
All right, let's wrap it up, Dan. Okay. So I think the big theme of this episode was that we want to choose elegant goals. We want to be careful. Is that the right word? Or, we want to be mindful of the goals that we choose. We want to choose goals that when we immerse ourselves in the process to attain them, our life is going to improve, whether we get to the top of the mountain or not. I think that's very important. And it's about the process. And when we immerse ourselves in a somewhat uncomfortable process, we're going to change. And we're going to become different people, better people, hopefully. And don't be surprised that you're going to feel dissatisfied when you have a new normal, when you have a new set point.
Right.
And that's all part of it. And probably that's why you want to maybe have your goals involve something really hard or sort of noble. So instead of like, I want to get a 30-inch waist, I mean, that's nice, but I want to be healthy and, some other more noble reasons that you're shooting for probably would be good. I want to become more honest with myself. I want to become braver and, all those good qualities.
Right. It's not, I want to weigh this much. It's, I want to be healthier.
Yeah.
I want to be more fit. I want to live longer, be happier.
That's it. All right. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nothing.
Awesome.
There's not a single thing.
And what was the thing? We came up with something. This is like one of those drunken conversations where you have this epiphany and you're like, no one's ever said that before. That's brilliant. And then I wake up the next day and I can't remember what it was that was so brilliant. But we came up with something that no philosophers in the history of the human race, of the species, has ever come up with. What was that again?
I can't recall it. And it's possible that we'll, then what happens is you remember it and go, oh,
Dimitri.
right,
He's not even listening. Yeah. I was going to ask him.
Dimitri's snoozing. Dimitri's out cold.
I know what it was. It was, we were talking about competition and goals. You were saying that they have a downside to them, goals. Whether, if you don't achieve them, you could go in the toilet like the guys of the Harvard-Yale game, the Yale guys, or you could become very dissatisfied one way or the other. And then we came up with this idea that goals or competition are just the spark plug to set you on your journey. And they're by no means the end of anything, just the spark plug. I think that was it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Awesome. All right, guys. So thank you for listening. I hope you get a lot of value out of this. I did.
Yeah, I did too.
Dan's life is better. My life is better.
I'm down 10 pounds.
I don't know if Dimitri's life is any better, but slightly maybe.
Looking at him, I'd say no.
You're down 10 pounds. I'm right on weight. And life is good, man. And it's a beautiful day.
Maybe next time we'll answer those questions.
We'll get to
now going to be far out from when they asked them. Because I'm not sure everyone understands there's a lag between when we do this and when it goes on the air.
Couple-week lag, yeah. But thank you, folks, for listening. Please share this. Tell your friends about it. If you get anything valuable about it, please give me feedback. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. If you don't think Dan is working out as a co-host, just drop me a line.
You don't need to. You don't need to. You can keep that to yourself.
Oh yeah, and then rate and review us.
In fact, I'd say keep the negative comments to yourself too.
That's
just
right.
Things you liked.
Things you like, let us know. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.